Welcome to today's episode of Between Neens and Deens. My name is Nina, and I'm joined by my best friend, partner, and baby daddy, Dayon.
And together, we're a couple of 20-something-year-olds just trying to navigate this whole first-time parenting thing.
So we're laying it all out there and talking about all the things you wish your parents told you about love, sex, and happiness.
Dun, 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 dun. We're talking about marriage, and specifically why we chose not to get married at this moment of time.
Well, like, once we found out we were pregnant. We were like, should we get married? Nah. So, like, everything about how we feel about marriage, weddings, all of it, all that good stuff we're going to cover today.
Yeah. A question that we received from a follower was, did we receive any pressure to get married when finding out we were pregnant?
I would say light pressure.
Light pressure. I think the only pressure was, like, from my mother and, like, just kind of the way she looks at marriage. So she was like, you have to get married.
She
it's
really wanted us to.
Yeah.
Like, she was like low-key begging Dayon to get married.
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect. Like, when we found out that we were pregnant, marriage never crossed my mind. Like, I never even considered it until she brought it up, and I was like, what?
So for us, personally, we believe that, like, and I'm very happy that we have, like, the same like way of thinking, but that marriage and, like, this pregnancy are two separate milestones, two separate things. So I know Nina, she's like, I cannot imagine squeezing myself in a wedding dress right now.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to plan a wedding, and I think for me, like, I don't even want, like, that big, you know, like, huge wedding, like, wedding of my dreams, like, but I do think that it's a milestone that I get to choose when I'm comfortable. Like, I kind of relate it to, like, when I knew that I was ready to have sex. Like, you just kind of know, you know, like, you know that that's the next step that you want to take in life, whether or not you want to take it or not. Being presented with an unplanned pregnancy, that's something that we couldn't necessarily avoid. Like, that was a situation that was thrust upon us, and then we had to make a decision about it. Marriage is something that is never really thrust upon you. It's just, you decide whether or not it's something you want to partake in, when you want to, and it's something you discuss with your partner. And so,
if you want to,
yeah, if you want to at all. And so for me, like, they're just so separate and they're so different that I think, like, we had talked about marriage and we knew that we did want to get married eventually. And actually doing this podcast and doing some research for it, it is interesting just kind of asking yourself why you even want to get married.
Yeah.
But I like, we knew that it was something that we wanted to do down the line. And I think we always kind of envisioned that we would get married and then we would have children. Like, not that the two go hand in hand or it needed to happen in that order, but I think you're just conditioned to. So I think that's just what we assumed we were going to do.
It being the other way around didn't, like, oh no, like, that shattered our dreams of, like, marriage and then baby.
Off our whole plan.
No, so my mom put a little bit of pressure because she was like, how's the child gonna feel? Like, it's weird. I feel like kids should just, like, learn what you teach them, and it is just, like, old tradition.
Yeah, her biggest fear was that our child was gonna grow up and, I think, conflate love and marriage the way that she does, and that like, if we weren't married, that means we weren't in love and we weren't stable, and that
or committed.
And so I think, like, for her, there were just all these things that get tied into marriage. I think for a lot of people,
we're here to tell you that should not be the case, because commitment and marriage are, I feel, they're separate. For instance, like, we're in a very committed relationship. I don't think marriage would necessarily change too much of the dynamic that we currently have. And even, like, reading things online, like, I don't...
Yeah, we tried to do some research because we were like, we need some other point of views, because obviously we share very, very similar views about marriage and pregnancy and all of these things. And so, like, I was genuinely trying to search what makes marriage so hard. Like, what is it that people really struggle with? And kind of, like, how is that different from the things that we've faced as, like, I guess, cohabitating individuals. We've been living together for 2 years now. Yeah, for like 2 years, and we've been in a very committed relationship for like 2.5.
We moved in together quickly.
Yeah, I mean, everything moved very quickly for us, and we do have a lot of very, very open conversations, which I like. It's interesting. We watch so much reality TV, and I know that reality TV is also just entertainment, but at the same time,
it's always like marriage is that final, like, we need to get married, and then after that, like,
everything is gonna be amazing. And I'm referencing 90 Day Fiancé right now. Like,
it's like what is your vision after you get married? That it's just like, it's blank. Is that where, like, it's just happily ever after? And I think, where it's like everything building up to it could be like complete trash, but once you get married, everything changes. Like, no, it's a relationship is a relationship. Whether you choose to get married, it's just so the government government knows that you guys kind of made that commitment.
And it's like so crazy to me, like hearing things like no one's ever told me that they want to get married to me and that they're my soulmate and like all these things. And I think we are conditioned like from a very young age, because I used to feel that way, you know, like when I was younger, I felt that way for sure, that if somebody wanted to marry me, then that meant that they loved me so much, you know. But like you can have that love outside of marriage, and marriage doesn't promise that love by any means. I think when I was searching why marriage is so hard, a lot of the things that people were saying was that, you know, like that people change and that you're locked into a commitment and that it can still be lonely. And I mean, all of those things you experience if you're in an open and honest, committed relationship.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times people kind of casually date until they get to a point where they're like, he proposed and yay, we're gonna get married. But like, have you even had those conversations yet? And if you have, like, that's great, that's amazing, you know, like, and I think that would make somebody ready for that type of commitment. Or even when people propose and they're like, oh, I don't know if she's gonna say yes. That blows my mind. Like, it blows my mind, because like I just assume
like,
that
what
people
do you guys
talk
even
about
talk about? Yeah, right? If it's if you
just
have like any doubt that it would happen.
Or it's like, oh, like I don't know if she loves me, but I'm gonna ask her to marry me. I mean, yeah, if you guys haven't seen 90 Day Fiance, you should 100% watch it, because it is great entertainment.
Like, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, dude, but like marriage, no, they're just taking your money. Like, like I don't know, the whole. I mean, as a, you know, like most little girls are, you're sold the whole like, have you been thinking about your dream wedding and all this stuff? So like normally they're like, oh, like this is my dream wedding, I want to have this, nah. But it's like weddings are so expensive, it's crazy. But it's
also,
really
like, what if as a little boy you dream about your dream wedding?
Well, yeah, that too. Okay, but I'm just saying. I mean, I had a dream wedding too, but Nina won't let me do the ideas that I want to do. I don't know. I just feel like, what is it? It's a celebration. You have all your friends and family to like celebrate the fact that you've decided to go that extra step. But like I said, I feel like that's a milestone, and it shouldn't be influenced by, oh, we're having a baby.
They're very separate. Like, they're such separate situations. I really feel like marriage is a commitment outside of pregnancy. And so I feel like for me, when we did kind of receive that pressure of, oh, okay, like, are you gonna get married now? First of all, it would be a shotgun wedding. And like, I would never want people to think that I would support getting married just because we got pregnant, or like, I just don't believe in that at all whatsoever.
Because, like, my mother was the one that put most of the pressure on me. So, like, the way that I, like, explained it to her, I was like, listen, wouldn't this mean more to not just the child, but to everyone around us? I'm like, just imagine, if we get married right now because we found out we're pregnant, people may start whispering, spreading rumors, oh, they're just getting married because they're pregnant or they're having a baby. Or we can maybe wait, like, a few years, like 2 years or so when we're ready, and then we get married, we have like a 2-year-old child, and then people are like, oh, like they didn't have to get married, but they're genuinely getting married because this is what they want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that should have, you know, more value. So that's kind of how I explained it to my mom, and then she was like, oh, okay. Also, you have to throw in like, it's 2020, mom, and then she understands. No, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, so it's,
get with the times.
Yeah, right. Make them feel irrelevant. No, I'm just kidding. But
I apologize to your mom right now.
I'm sorry, Mom. I love you. You're so relevant. You're hip with the times. Yeah, like,
my dad also asked us if we were gonna get married, but I feel like it was a bit different. I think that he never really explained why he kind of questioned it.
So
but
we can only assume.
I can only assume, but I know my dad pretty well. And so, I mean, obviously they know Dayon, they love Dayon, and I think they know that we're in a very committed relationship. I think his concern was just having his daughter be unmarried, and so is this man going to commit to me?
Which, I mean,
and
yeah,
our
at any
child.
point, like, it is possible for me to just disappear, because it's not unheard of. That's been situations for definitely a lot of people.
But I
in
think
this
that's
world.
the thing, is that we've also discussed how if we do break up, then there's so many things that, I mean, we don't own like a house together, so I mean, there isn't that issue, but we definitely have things together. We have assets together. We have all of our furniture together.
I think it'd be so difficult. So like, yeah, that's where I say, like, marriage to me, to our relationship, doesn't have too much of a difference in regards to commitment, because like, yeah, if we break up now, there's so much that we have to divvy up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be stressful.
Yeah. Well, I guess legally I wouldn't get half your money, but still it would be like...
Well, actually, now that we're cohabitating, so it's obviously different in Canada and the States, but actually, if you're cohabitating for more than 2 years, which we are very, 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 very soon, in April, actually, when the baby comes. So funny. But if we are cohabitating, then in the eyes of the Canadian government, then we still pretty much have the same exact rights and taxes, and like all of that is the same as if we were married. Technically, all the money that I make, you would have legal access to half of it. It is quite interesting because if you do look at the laws in Canada and the States, they're very, very different. And I think in the States, it ranges by state as well. But in the articles that we were reading about why people should consider getting married before getting pregnant, a really big reason why was just because of legal issues, especially if like adoption was kind of an option for you guys, but also just in terms of paying taxes. So, I mean, it is an important thing to look into and know all of your rights, I think, especially as the father, because I think the mother tends to get more legal say.
Over, like, the baby?
Yeah, over the baby and, like, the decisions that are made about it. So, yeah, like, it's definitely an important thing to be informed about. So a lot of the articles that we did read kind of conflated marriage with stability. Like, the thing is, like, when you're consuming all of these studies and things like that, you have to, one, consider when it was done, because the ideas of marriage have changed so much over the course of, like, the last couple of decades. And when you conflate marriage to love and stability and all of these things, that they would just be better parents, higher income, all of these things, like I don't know, it's something about it just rubs me the wrong way, because obviously, like, I grew up with parents that we were all living in like a very low socioeconomic position, and like to just say that if you have like a higher income, you finished college, your child is more likely to be stable and happy and whatever, like I don't think that's necessarily true, because I know a lot of people that did grow up in that kind of situation. And are the marriages stable? No. Are the kids happier and better off? Not always. I think that when you have a higher income, then yeah, your child has better access to education, which would help them succeed. But I feel like there are just so many things that are conflated to marriage and stability that are just not true, because you can be in a marriage and be very, very unhappy, arguing all the time, and feel trapped in that marriage because you're married and you'd have to go through the process of divorce. And that's not good for a child. Like, at the end of the day, like, what a child needs is to be in a very loving environment, whatever that looks like, and like one that is mostly free of conflict. Your relationship to your spouse is very different from your relationship to your child and how you can parent your child.
I don't know, I just feel like at the end of the day, like those morals and values should be held within a committed relationship, regardless of marriage or not.
Marriage is an institution. It's archaic. And I think that there are a lot of ways that you can make it work for you in this day and age, but I think you just really have to determine what that means, because marriage is a byproduct of stability. You know, like, I think the reason why I wanted us to get married in the future is because I wanted us to be very stable. And my parents are married, your parents are married, and like, I kind of know that I want you as a life partner. And we don't have to get married to have all of those things, but I think because it kind of aligns with what we want, then that's something that we would feel like doing. But it's not the other way around. Stability doesn't come from marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very flawed to, one, have people believe that, because then, yeah, people get married or want to be married because they want a stable life partner, they want somebody to love, and they want all of these things. But you can have all of those things outside of marriage, and it can be very absent in a marriage.
Yeah. Also, marriage doesn't mean you're adulting.
Yeah. Let's just get that out the way right now.
Marriage does not mean you're being an adult. I think another angle that my mom was coming at was like the public perception of our relationship. When you see us, you know that we're in love and we're committed. I don't think just the fact that you changed from being my partner to my wife would really change. I guess it would for some people. Like, I think they would be like, oh, you guys are more serious. Yeah, like,
there's a lot of other things that come with adulting. Savings, proper savings, financial independence, being able to communicate your emotions and your needs and wants effectively.
Yeah.
Like, none of those things are promised in marriage. I think I just keep repeating that, so I need to move away from it.
Yeah. If you have issues in your relationship, marriage will not help it. Will probably only
Having
make it worse.
Having a baby also won't help it. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way too. They're like, gotta save this relationship. Let's have a baby. Like, I'm lonely.
Or by trying to lock someone in by like, okay, if we get married, that's it. This person is with me forever. But divorce is a thing. Like, there's many people getting divorced.
We're moving into a lot of different topics now, but I don't feel that if you're in a marriage that isn't working out, that because you made that commitment to each other at one point in time when you were very different people, that you're seen as a failure by wanting to get a divorce so that you can both be happier. I think that, you know, like there's a...
If it really doesn't work.
Yeah, like I think that there's a level in which you need to try. You shouldn't just give up because, you know, you did love this person at one point. You did want all these things with this person, so try. But I think if you try your hardest and it just doesn't work out, then there's nothing wrong with being divorced. And I think that that's just, there's a whole lot of social stigma about it. I know that religion also ties into a lot of this with like marriage and divorce and all these things, and people have very different opinions. And obviously neither of us are very religious, and we don't kind of have the influences of religion. And so I think that frames kind of the way that we see things. And by all means, like I respect people that, you know, like if marriage means something different to you, like I respect that.
And if like family traditions mean a lot to you as well, then what we're saying is just like for ourselves, it doesn't hold that kind of
like I think
importance.
that there's just like a kind of common narrative about marriage that does kind of stem from religion and commitment that looks a certain way. And it took me a while to kind of understand what I wanted from a marriage and what it meant to me, because it's not what it is to a society, it's what it is to you individually, because you're going to be the one that's living through it.
What I wanted to say is that in Neen and ours relationship, we do have hardships as well. But that doesn't go to say that like whether we're married or in this current state that we're in, that like breaking up is at all, like breakup and divorce to us doesn't seem
all that different. I think the only thing is divorce is expensive.
Yeah, divorce is expensive. Sometimes you got lawyers involved and all that stuff. Yeah. But like with our relationship, like we go through hardships and we have to like work through it. You know what I mean?
We've
like,
changed as people so much. I mean, I think another thing that people really face that is hard about marriage is that it's kind of anticlimactic. You like get married and then you think it's gonna be all of these amazing things, and it's not. It's your regular life, but now you're living with another person, especially if you've never lived together before, or if you've never had sex before marriage. Like all of those things are gonna make it quite difficult and a lot of things to navigate when you're newly married. It's not as climactic as people think. It's not that happily ever after. You have to work at being together.
Or that like really that it changes too much, because our understanding of if we choose to get married, it won't change.
I really don't see how it would change very much.
Yeah, I don't see it really change anything in a relationship. But
besides making it maybe a little bit harder to break up.
The way I look at it, it's nice to like be able to like, oh, that is my wife. So I can say like, that's my wife. I don't know. You know how guys always, they go to the stag party and be like, oh, you're done. You know what I mean? Like you... Like, no more anything for you. Like,
you
no more
fun.
You can't go out,
like gold ball and chain.
Yeah, it's like...
But we don't go out anyways. Like, we don't. I mean, like, and maybe we're just really... We are very, very domesticated as people. And we do occasionally go out. If you do... I mean, if you're going out and, like, meeting other people and, like, flirting with other people, yeah, that's probably going to change. But also, you shouldn't be doing that in a committed relationship.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so, like, that's the thing, right? It's like, what am I saying goodbye to? Is it, like, are you cheating on your girlfriend and then when she's your wife, like, you're no longer cheating on her? Like... Where is that line of like, oh, everything is changing? But
the thing is, like, also if you both party people, then it's like no one's saying that once you become married that you can't do that anymore, you know, like that you can't go out together or like separately.
If
like
that's something you guys do together, that's something that you should.
I think there are just so many
doing that together. You know
yeah, like I think there are just so many assumptions about like what being a married couple is like, what being a mom is like, what being dad is like. I don't think so much of your life has to change, especially if you're just going from like a couple to being married, no kids, then why does a lot of that have to change? I think like the communication should have been there before. You should know if you're a homebody type or a more social outgoing type. Those issues would have come up earlier than like waiting until you get married and then all of a sudden you're talking about it for the first time.
And think like, oh, now that I've trapped you, here's all these things about me.
It kind of boils down to people's differing opinions about living together before you get married versus not living together before you get married. And I feel very strongly that you should live together because you learn so much about each other. You're sharing space and you have to learn to compromise.
What are some things we've learned?
About moving in together. I feel like that's a whole other podcast because it's also very different because I lived alone before. You hadn't lived alone before. Being in another person's space is going to be difficult. I think that if you're tackling that for the first time in marriage, that's gonna be really fucking hard.
Going back to like why we made our decision, right? So planning to have a baby is a lot of planning. Planning to have a wedding as well is also a lot of planning. Planning to move in together is a lot of things involved as well. So now imagine combining that's high stress right there. That's a lot of stress. So,
and if you can get through that, I mean, you're gonna be real strong. Yeah.
So for us, that's why I felt what works best for us is like we moved in together first. You know, we started a business together, which was like another stress.
Working together.
We're working together,
thing,
which is a whole other thing. I think working together was a stress that came in the same time as finding out the pregnancy, which caused like...
That was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you separate those stresses, not saying like having a baby is stressful, but it is a lot of like planning, a lot of things we needed to get ready. So
a lot of new things to learn.
Yeah, so like having that and then also trying to like
plan
a wedding in the same time, I think that would just cause so much stress in our relationship, which personally we feel is unneeded. So that's kind of why, like, going back to why we decided to go this direction is because we feel like there's no rush. They are separate milestones. We can go through with enjoying this time as much as we can and like really embracing that and cherishing that. Once the feeling is like a little bit more simmered down, then we can start planning the wedding and then going through those motions and those milestones.
But even then, like, I don't know, I think my idea of what I want for my wedding has changed so much in the last, honestly, probably just last couple of months. I think growing up, I did always, just because you're told that you like, every little girl has her dream wedding, you know, like, I think I wanted to buy into that. And for a lot of people, it's like that really special day. It's the one day where you get to dress up, but I don't need it to be huge. I don't need it to be expensive, because at the end of the day, like, you're literally spending so much money on 3 hours, whereas you could have invested that money on your future and like having a house if that's what you want, or like starting a business if that's what you want. And it's just like that money could go to better things, in my personal opinion. And I think that if you'd asked me maybe like a year or two ago, I would have still wanted that really large wedding. But I think also as a person, I've changed so much. Like, I went from being incredibly social and having a really large circle and wanting to maybe share this with everybody that I knew. And now I feel like our circle is a lot smaller. We have a few close friends. We have kind of our immediate family.
And
but
I like that.
Yeah, but past that, it's like I don't want to be inviting people to my wedding just because I feel like I have to, or because there's any type of obligation other than like, I want you to be there because you would love and support us. And that circle is actually very, very small. I think we had like made a tentative list of all the people we'd want to be there, and it was like 50. It was like 50 people, including family and friends. It's a house party. Yeah, it's basically a house party.
I just want it to be fun. I just want people to have a good time, dance. I want some good music, and just to celebrate our love. That's all I really see for the wedding.
Yeah, so I feel like if we could keep the cost low, that would be amazing. And I say that now, but I think like the things that I would spend the most money on is probably what I'm wearing, because that's a non-negotiable.
And I think she wants a few different fits.
Yeah, I want a few different fits, and I want there to be like nice fresh flowers, probably peonies, because that's my favorite flower, and just have good food. But like other than that, like I don't really care kind of where it takes place.
Good food.
Yeah, like all those things, and those things that I just listed are going to be very expensive, but like I don't need like a whole grand venue. I don't need like all these extra additional things. Like I just want it to be good food, a good time, pretty flowers. But circling back to marriage in general, at the end of the day, I think what I did find in the articles and what we believe is that the most important thing when considering to have a child is stability. And so I think that at the end of the day, no matter what that looks like, if for you that's going to be marriage, if for you that's going to be kind of your current situation of not being married, or even raising your child alone and knowing that you can fucking do that thing, like there's no wrong option, and there are people that turn out perfectly fine and healthy in so many different situations. And I think that to believe that marriage is the only way is incredibly flawed. And I feel like it really devalues what a lot of people struggle through and like really do to provide like a really happy, healthy childhood for your child.
And all you single parents out there, man, you guys are crushing it.
Just having a child that grows up in an environment where they know they're loved, like that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, I feel like it's like, what position in life are you in when you're deciding to get married? Like, have you found yourself? Are you looking for another person to complete you? Like, all of those things do matter.
Reconsider.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely should not be getting married because you think that another person is going to complete you and be all of your happiness and sunshine and rainbows and all of that. It's not a thing.
That's no one's responsibility but your own.
Just take a moment to yourself and really think about, you know, how you feel about your relationship with yourself, because marriage is going to be hard. Any type of long-term commitment is going to be hard. And if you are not really sure how you even feel about certain things, if you're not really good at, standing up for yourself yet, like saying no when you think things are not right, all of those things are things you should be practicing before you even get into a committed relationship, because it's hard. It's hard to like share a life with somebody, share a vision and a future with somebody.
It's easier when they're your best friend, though.
All right, so that is everything for today's episode.
Thank you for tuning in.
And make sure that you subscribe, follow, download, rate us on Apple, all the things you do on the podcast. But you can also follow us on IG at Neens Deens, or my personal at Your Girl Neens.
And mine at Day On Stay Off.
And yeah, we'll see you guys for the next one.
Oh, and also don't forget to DM us anything you want to hear on the show, because we do look into it and we do try to make some episodes around some of those popular asked questions.
So have a beautiful day and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.